Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's still pretty loud, Lish. I'm so excited that it's going to be so warm today. I will be outside all day long, and Sal will be sitting in front of an air conditioner. Sal and I are on opposite sides of comfortability and weather temperature. We have our open door on Tuesday evenings at 7 o'clock here at the bridge. So if you're interested in coming to that, we meet here, just time to connect midweek and do some prayer requests. So if you have anything you want us to add to that, please let us know, and we can do that. We do a men's group that's the second Tuesday of each month. If you're interested in that and have any questions, please let us know. We'll get you connected with Jim. It's at Jim and Sylvia's house at 6 o'clock on the second Tuesday of each month. And then youth group is running before church at 9:15 here every other week. So the next one will be on May 5th. We're in May this week. I think I'm at 28 days of school. I think we're at 28 days. I know, I'm pretty excited about that. It'll be a rough 28, but it'll be 28 and counting. But May 5th will be the next youth Sunday before church. So if you're interested in 7th through 12th grade, please come at 9:15 before church. Please. Please stand for this thing.
You have made a place where love and breath run wild. The penalty and grace are finally reconciled. You have made a way, the broken can be whole again. At the cross, the glory bore my shame.
the dragon. All right, let's pray. Dear God, amen. All right, you can have a seat. Stephen, there you go. Will you handle that for me today? All right. Meanwhile, Jacob left Beersheba and traveled toward Haran. At sundown, he arrived at a good place to set up camp and stopped there for the night. Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. As he slept, he dreamed of a stairway that reached from the earth up to heaven, and he saw the angels of God going up and down the stairway. At the top of the stairway stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you. I am giving it to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. They will spread out in all directions, to the west and the east, to the north and the south, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished giving you everything I have promised you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I wasn't even aware of it. Sometimes we are faced with these things in our lives where we realize how fragile this beautiful gift of life is. And it's a verse like that that tells me we can't miss any of these things. It makes everything that we put between us and everything that divides us seem awfully, awfully small. So every time we read those verses, every time those things come up, I want you to just remember, don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's pretty fragile. So God gives us these. Let's be present. Everything that we are and everything that we do. Okay. We are about to get into a really, really thick, deep space. And the message today is called, What Do We Do When It Hurts? And that's vain. So I think that we all love that. We have to have a deal first. Okay? The deal is, most of the time in our lives, we're all putting up images. We're all living some kind of pretense. We are all hiding things. We are keeping people at arm's length. Inside the church, there's no space for that. Okay? So we're right about to get into some really, really deep things. And the deal is we have to be 100% honest all the time there and authentic. Can we do that? If we can't, I'm leaving. So, everybody that agrees and has to deal with me, just put your hand up. Okay, I think I see everybody's hand. So, we'll begin. Okay, this is where we're starting. Ephesians 4:2. Be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Now, the Bible, we've just spent a couple weeks on humility. The Bible calls humility in lots of different spaces, different words. Lowliness, meekness, gentleness. Now, we could talk about all those words. Meekness doesn't mean anything other. Meek is a lot of times how they talk about a horse. A horse is penned up. So it's all that energy under control. That's what meekness is. It's not just we're the carpet. Okay? We are never ever called to be the carpet. Does everybody understand that? So, humility is that. It is not, as David Cusick says, a pushy desire to defend our own rights and defend our own agenda. It means that we can be happy and content when we are not in control or steering things our way. It means that we can be happy and content when we are not in control or steering things our way. So, when we choose, and like everything else, humility is not so much a feeling or an emotion, It is a choice. We oftentimes think that these things are emotions, like love. We think that love is something we feel. Love is not something we feel. Love is something we do. Okay? These things are actions, right? Humility is the same thing. We choose to give up our rightness, to not defend ourselves, to choose to be patient, to choose to be gentle, to choose to not be in control, to choose to give up the control when someone else is steering. So the question is, what if they don't steer it where we want to go? Right? Now, first, the answer to that, we just spent a month talking about that. Humility. Just because it's not where we want to go doesn't make it wrong, dumb. What doesn't automatically make it a sin, right? It just means it's not where we would want to go. Okay? So we have to be okay with that. Part of humility is choosing to be okay with that. But, what if they don't steer it well? What if it's dangerous? What if they want to steer it into a wall or oncoming traffic on your side? What if they want to hurt you? Now, that's a different question, isn't it? Matthew 18. Please turn to Matthew 18. We're going to stay in Matthew 18 all day long. Matthew 18. Verse 15. I just want to talk about one word in verse 15. What's the first word in verse 15, Ian? Are you there? I'm sorry. Still getting it. Huh? Verse 18, 15. Oh, okay. What's the second word in yours? Second word. If your brother sins against you, just because they want to go someplace different, just because they have made a different choice from you, doesn't make it a sin. If they just have the cap off the toothpaste, that doesn't make it a sin. Okay? But if this is the beginning of that three-part thing, where you tell him, if your brother sins against you, you tell him, you take 2 or 3 more, and then you tell the church. That's part of this passage. But it begins with if. If your brother sins against you. Let's say, what we're about to get into is if that if has happened. Your brother has sinned against you. Okay? So what if he has sinned against you? Your brother or sister has sinned against you, hurt you, damaged you. I've had this very, very many times. Now, 1 is too many. 1 is too many, right? Has anybody ever been hurt by their brother or sister? Too many times somebody came for me. Somebody came in an attack and came for me. You hear the saying? They came for blood. They wanted me hurt. And they came. And they came to do it. Right? And it leaves damage that lasts. Now what? Now what? Jesus, not surprisingly, had a lot to say about this because this is the kind of thing that happens. Verse 21 in chapter 18. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? Now you see we're not talking about if anymore. This person has sinned against me. So, how often should I forgive them? 7 times? Now, 7 has some significance in the scriptures. Okay? 7 times is the number of wholeness, the number of completion. So, that seems like a really good answer. Has anybody ever forgiven someone 7 times? It's ridiculous. Once is hard enough. Okay? And Jesus says, no, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. And that's really his way of, it's not a number. It's not a number. It's kind of a code for every time. Okay? Every time. Many as it takes. So, now the question is, how do we do that? How do we do that? C.S. Lewis says, everyone says forgiveness is a lovely idea until they have something to forgive. That's why we're being honest here. Because there are a lot of people who say, I don't have anything to forgive. I'm so peaceful, I'm so Christian, I'm so super spiritual, I don't have anything to forgive. Those people are lying, generally. Okay? And we're not doing that. Everybody knows what it feels like when you've been damaged, when somebody came for you, when they hurt you, and left you wide open and in pain. Everybody knows that. What do we do with that? What do we do with that? There's 2 basic things that we have to do, because the second that we start to talk about forgiveness, we go like this and make fists. All of our look down at your hand. Maybe they're white knuckles, right? Because we're mad. We don't like it. We don't like it, and we'll address all of this. But here's 2 basic things before we even start this to keep our hands from balling up into fists. 1, forgiveness is not reconciliation. Everybody understand that? 2, forgiveness is not a lack of boundaries. Okay? People will try and convince you they are. People will try and convince you that you have to let them back in your life. Right? But the people that will try and convince you, are those people who hurt you and want to do it again. There are these people. People are the best. The absolute best. Capable of the most staggering love and kindness, and some are psychos. Okay? Honest, remember? We've had a deal. Okay. They do it and they want to do it again. Sometimes people are toxic to you, right? And they don't get access to you anymore. That is a different thing than forgiveness. So, if what we're thinking when I talk about forgiveness, you go, I don't want to see them again ever. Okay? Okay. Let's forgive them anyway. Oh boy. Now what? Now what? It's hard. It's hard. Believe me, there's nobody that you know that likes to set boundaries less than me. That's why earlier when I said this happens to me a lot, that's why. Because I'm bad at boundaries. And I choose to allow these things to be done. Okay? So, on that, here is a probable truth. You will allow more pain to you than you would to anyone else in your life. Right? Have you ever counseled someone, and I mean counsel in the way that you're talking to a friend and you say, hey, you need to get out of that relationship, an abusive, violent, unhealthy relationship. You need to leave that behind. Has anybody ever done that? Had to say those things to another person, and you allow those same kinds of things to happen to you? Sorry. Yep. That's a probable truth. So the question for that is, why? Why? Why is that? You're in my living room now. This is really hard for me because I often reason it as ministry. I say, I have really broad shoulders, and in ministry, I will allow these things, right? I have to allow a certain amount of vulnerability and a certain amount of being the carpet to let ministry happen. And there's some truth to that, right? There's some truth to that. But I'm also seeing that there's a certain element of masochism, which means I'm looking to get hurt in all this. I get that. The trick is knowing how much of each. Until it's ministry, until it's not. Right? A good place to start here, and I'm guessing, I know you guys the way that I do, I'm guessing that we all struggle with this a little bit. So, a good place to start to know where that line is what's a good place to start with anything? The helmet of salvation. Have we ever talked about the helmet of salvation? Right? Well, let me tell you about it. Maybe we need to begin every conversation with seeing us as royalty, as the ones Jesus gave his life for, to tell the difference between where it changes from ministry to trash. Maybe we need that. Maybe we need to say, Chad, Jesus came, lived, died for Chad, doesn't need, not so that I could get kicked all around. Right? Can we agree on that? The answer is yes. Of course, we have a deal. To allow this kind of treatment is to minimize the perspective of you. To minimize his sacrifice. Who are we to say that we are not worth it when Jesus died to tell us we are? Right? That takes his sacrifice and makes it small. Do you think that he died so you could be somebody else's punching bag? Metaphoric or otherwise? The answer is no. The answer is no. And if you ever have any questions, we need to really strap that helmet on tight. So, anyway, back to the initial question. They can get themselves together. And we really, really, really hope they do. Okay? We really, really want them to. But someplace else. Okay? We forgive them, but there are consequences to actions. All of these things can coexist. This is going to be a hard, heavy, thick teaching because all of these things coexist and we're going to need lots and lots of hands to hold it all. Okay? So, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Stop holding bitterness and anger towards them. Stop drinking poison, expecting them to suffer. Rest our cause, our offense, in God's hands, and know peace. Amen. That's it. Easy enough. Right? Right? Ha-ha. So the questions are, how do we do this? And there's a pre first. See, it takes forever. Last week, I had a 3-point teaching. And as soon as we got in the car, my wife said to me, I got 1. Because I do a terrible job of saying, here's the second point. So I get it, it's going to be muddy, but I've got points. Okay, so there's a pre first, and it's very, very, very important. Don't start with the worst. Don't start with the meanest, nastiest abuser and betrayer that you know. Start a little easy. Start with the one who cut you off in traffic. Start with the loud neighbor that lives right down the street who really shouldn't be living in town. Right? Start with the one who took your seat in church. Okay? Let's just start there. That's where we're starting. So, okay. 7 steps to freedom. 7 plus. It's not 7, but I know 7 is the key number to make it awesome. So it's 7 plus. And there's 8 E's in freedom, so that's a hint. There's 8 steps. But we can't call it 8. Okay? So this is how it goes. There has to be a cool remembering tool as well, and I'm going to come up with one by the end, I promise. But it's going to be so long that you'll forget that I promised. So I'm going to try and do it. right? Some of these things, some of these steps are internal. Some others will see, right? Some are individual. Some are with others. All of them are hard. All of them are hard, and they require heavy lifting, and none of them are done alone. Every one of them is holding the hand of Jesus, sometimes as hard as you can. Like you're in a, like, you know how you think of those old movies where you they put a rag in someone's mouth to operate on the pool table in Tombstone. That's what it is. You're squeezing Jesus' hand through a lot of this. That's what it's for. They all require complete honesty and humility. There is no time at any point here for faking or judgment. None. None. That's why we made a deal. So, slide number 1. You'll see that this comes from something, and there's a point to do it because we've just spent a month kind of on pre-1. Consider the possibility that we might not be perfect. I know. And 2, just consider the spaces that we might need forgiveness. Okay? That's where we're starting. The AA movement, the AA program has 2 steps that can and will help us. The first one, admit. Now, in the AA it says, admit we are powerless, that our lives have become unmanageable. Let's just call it something different here. Admit our condition. Admit we are not perfect. Without Christ, we are powerless over sin. Powerless. Okay? Without Christ. That's just the story. If anybody thinks they're different, they're the exception, bad news. Got bad news. Okay? And not funny, but the good news, to get to the good news, you need the bad news. Okay? When we started this place, all I wanted to focus on was grace. Just grace. Constant grace. Just, you don't have to do anything. It's grace, grace, grace. I didn't say the word sin for lots and lots of years. But what I found was, if we make the condition small, if we make the problem small, if we make the debt small, so is the solution. So I thought I was doing, let's just talk about grace, because that makes Jesus so big. But it was the wrong thing. It was the wrong thing, and it was working exactly the opposite of what I wanted to do. You still hear in every word I say, it's all about grace. But now, it's much, much bigger. C.S. Lewis calls it cheap grace if you don't talk about the problem. Okay? So, we are not perfect. Without Christ, we are powerless to our sin. Our lives are, our actions are, without Christ, unmanageable. We have to admit that. Then the next one is step 4. And it's called make the list. But step 4 is make a searching and fearless moral inventory. Now, in the program, we have wronged lots and lots of people. And what happens is we make a list of the people that we've wronged, of the places where we've ruined it. Okay? And then we say we're sorry for those. But that's a later step. We're not there. We're just making the list. We're just making the list. Ask the questions. What did I do? How did it affect them? Be very, very, very specific. I know. Uncomfortable. Big time. Big time. There's so many things in my life that I can think about. I'm different. I don't regret them anymore, but I know my missteps. I know where I've hurt them. I'm aware of the places where I ruin things. Okay? Write them down and talk to somebody else, somebody that you trust. Now, here's a long list that is going to ring true. Maybe we caused relationship breakdown through our pride and fear. Anybody know that? Maybe we made mistakes. Maybe we hurt them through our neglect. Maybe we hurt them because we took them for granted. Maybe we hurt them because we needed to control them. See how I leave that one sit just a little longer. Maybe we minimized them. Maybe we put them into boxes that they couldn't escape. That's a thing that I have done. That's a thing that rings true to me. Maybe we were selfish. Maybe we put their needs beneath ours. Maybe we put them behind us. Right? Maybe we needed to win. Okay. Now this one you're going to want to sit with a little bit later. Maybe we use them as means instead of ends. Maybe we acted like jerks. Maybe we condescended. Maybe we tore them down. Maybe we let our anger get the best of us. Maybe we manipulated. Maybe we used them to get what we wanted. Anybody? Just me and Troy. From the AA book, it says, this perverse soul sickness is not pleasant to look upon. And it's not. Once we open those things up. Now, that's why no judgment is so important here. And we'll talk about that in a second. That's why that's so important. Because we're all looking at it. And it's ugly. It's ugly. But we're all looking at it. That's why the helmet of salvation is so tightly on our head. Think of it like a bike helmet that's ratcheted. Oh. I get excited. And the strap is so tight, it's making marks because we need to strap it on so tight. So that when we look at these things, it doesn't say that we are lost, that we are dirty, that we are filthy. It means we've done these things. Because we're not filthy, dirty. We are clean. We are rescued. We are saved. Okay? Okay. Matthew 18. We're all still there, right? Therefore, the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king. This is right after 70 times 7. This is the story that Jesus gives to us to illustrate 70 times 7. The kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who decided to bring his accounts up to date with servants who had borrowed money from him. In the process, one of his debtors was brought in. Now, my translation says millions of dollars. It should probably say something more like bazillions of dollars. Okay? He couldn't pay, and he never could pay. Never, ever, ever. So his master ordered that he be sold, along with his wife, his children, and everything he owned, to pay the debt. But the man fell down before his master and begged him, please be patient with me, and I'll pay it all. What's that? A lie. That's a lie. Okay? Then his master was filled with pity for him, and he let's change pity to grace. And he released him and forgave his debt. But then that man left the king. He went to a fellow servant who owed him a few $1,000s. You owe a bazillion to the king, and then you go out and find the guy who owes you $5. Okay? He grabbed him by the throat and demanded instant payment. His fellow servant fell down before him and begged for a little more time. Be patient with me and I'll pay it. What's that? The truth. He can pay this back. But his creditor wouldn't wait. He had the man arrested and put in prison until the debt could be paid in full. When some of the other servants saw this, they were very upset. They went to the king and told him everything that had happened. Then the king called in the man he had forgiven and said, you evil servant, I forgave you that tremendous debt because you pleaded with me. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant just as I had mercy on you? Then the angry king sent the man to prison to be tortured until he had paid his entire debt. Essentially, the king says, this is the way that I want it. And then the guy leaves and says, I don't want it that way. I want it my way. And then the king says, That's what you want. That's how you want it. If you want debits and credits, I guess we'll play by that. He doesn't want to, right? All of us have debts. Words in here are each of us. All of us have debts. The problem in this parable is that the guy, the me, forgot. The me closed his eyes to his own need for forgiveness. That's the big problem here. And when we do, we say things like, I want it fair. Anybody? Like it fair. Okay. Now, if we don't have any places where we need forgiveness, then that's a really, really dangerous place. Because at that point we have an awful lot and our pride is blinding us. Sorry to say it like that, but that's how it goes. Okay? The most distant place in relationships. There aren't many, I can tell you. There aren't many where there's no way back. Okay? There aren't many. Every time I talk to somebody within a broken relationship, I start from the point where there's a way back. There's a way back, and we're fine. We just need to find it. That's all. Everything's good. It's a really hopeful place. The only place, the most distant place, the hardest one it's out to see, is when one is all right and the other is all wrong. It's the 100 to 0. That's the big. There's no honesty. There's no humility. There's no self-awareness here, and there's no path forward in a 100 to 0 situation. So the other problem area that we'll find is, well, I did that because they made me. I did that because they caused me to react that way. Has anybody ever heard this? It's their fault I hurt them. Right? And it's often from abusers. They say things like, well, they pushed my buttons. You ever hear that? I know we're all giggling. Sometimes it's not that fun. Right? How about, I cheated because he did this first. Right? How about that nonsense, because she dressed that way? Right? Everybody, this is how it goes. AA says, where other people are concerned, we drop the word blame from our speech and thought. It's not their fault. Though they may have dressed that way, though they may have pushed our buttons, though they may have behaved in such a way that triggered our impulse for anger or revenge, it might all be a contributing factor, it might be a reason, but when we are honest, we don't have any excuses. We don't have a need for excuses either. And I would suggest that that's the freedom of the helmet of salvation. We have to stop being, we get to stop being perfect because our worth doesn't hinge on our performance. When we put the helmet on, we are free, truly, truly free to make a mistake. It's awesome. It's just awesome. Okay. Even if there were excuses to be made, we assaulted, we abused, we cheated. We got to look at it. We got to look at it. Honest self-awareness is key here for this number one. But again, no judgment is necessary. We all have these. Romans 3 says one of the biggest sledgehammers I can think of to our pride. None is righteous. No, not one. None. That includes us. Not one. Think of the best person you know. They're not righteous when they have to do it themselves. This is going to get so much harder. See, I know where we're going. It's going to get much, much harder. Okay. We all have spaces. There's no judgment because we all have spaces where we broke things. We all have spaces where we hurt people. Nobody's judging you, and nobody's judging me. Well, maybe you're judging me, but I don't want you to. Okay? So nobody's doing that. We are safe places. We are kind, and we are gentle with each other. Okay? That's the beauty of the gift of the church. How many spaces do you know in your life where you're totally safe? You are here. You are here. The dangerous people are the ones who make you feel scared. The ones who make you feel judged. The ones who make you feel less than. They are the perfect. They are the 100 to zeros. They are the better than yous. Okay? They are inauthentic. They are dishonest. They are liars. They are fakers. The Bible calls them hypocrites. And hypocrite just means actors. They are actors. They are not our concern. Be very, very careful with them. There were lots of times where I reached out to people that I thought were my safe places, and those were the places where I got hurt the most. Okay? Now, here's the other part of that. Be really careful we are not them. Okay? Be really, really careful. We have been them, and we will be them again. I'm so sorry to say it, but we will be them again. So be vigilant with this. Be aware and be awake. When someone comes to you and opens up their heart and puts it right in front of you, be very, very careful. Because they didn't do it easy. It took a long time and a lot of fear to go, here it is. So, the parable earlier. What's the king's posture on this? What does the king want to do? It's not a trick question. He wants to forgive. He wants to forgive that debt. He wants us to forgive those who've trespassed against us as our trespasses have been forgiven. He wants us in a world of grace. That is our king. Okay? The one who runs to the prodigal son. Does anybody know the prodigal son story? If we don't, real quick. The king has two sons. One of the sons says, listen, I would really like it to be as if you're dead, so just give me my inheritance today. And the king says, okay. Gives it to him. And the son then goes off and does whatever he will with it. And then he's living on the streets and he's eating with the pigs. And he says, they treat the pigs better at my dad's place. So I'm crawling back. And he's walking back. The dad sees him far off, runs to him, and when he gets to him, he says, what have you learned? Are you sorry? And the kid says, yes, I'm so sorry. And he has this whole rehearsed speech like we do. Except for none of that happens. He runs to him and he wraps him up and he brings him home and he says, let's have a big party because the son who was lost is found, and kill the fatted calf, and it's the most beautiful time of our lives. Son doesn't even get a chance to say he's sorry. Gosh, I was mean to you, Dad. I acted like you were dead. Didn't get to say any of that. His whole rehearsed speech, which you know he had, because we all did it. Didn't even need it. And then, who's standing outside? The other brother, who really, really, really likes fair. Right? He's the fair brother who says, no, this isn't fair. And the dad says, come on inside, we're having a big party. And the kid says, no way, this isn't fair. And he goes, hold on. Everything I have, I already give to you. Being here makes you makes you royalty. You have everything. Do you think the older son deserved any of it? Because what does the king say? What I have. The older son doesn't have a thing. What I have, I give all to you. Come inside, man. Let's have a party. And the story ends with the son outside like this, deciding if he's going in. I don't know. This is too unfair for me, right? So, think for a minute. Who enjoyed the prodigal son feast the most? But first, who enjoyed it the least? The older son. The fair one, who had nothing at all to be forgiven for, who was arrogant, who was self-righteous, who was 100 to nothing, right? He was better. He's one of the better than yous, right? He's better, thinking he's been shortchanged. Thinking that if you win, he loses. Right? He doesn't live in a world where everybody wins. Right? Thinking he's been shortchanged. Thinking something's been withheld from him. Thinking he's been so good. And standing outside while everybody's inside having the time of their lives. That's who enjoyed that feast the least. It's probably a terrible night. Now, who enjoyed it the most? The son, right? He was selfish, he was greedy, he was arrogant, which, by the way, are their own punishments. We are punished by our sins, generally, and far more often we are punished by our sins, not for them. Okay? We are punished by them. He was selfish, greedy, and arrogant, and that caused him to be far, far away. Far from home, broken, squandered, subject to a great famine, living and eating with the pigs. And now he's back, warm, cozy, full, safe at home, the guest of honor. Place at the table for you. That's how it happens. So, he sees all of who he is. All of him. He is no longer image-making. He's no longer pretending. He's no longer hiding, and he's no longer acting. He sees himself as he is. He's made a hard inventory of how he's treated everybody, including his father. Now, the father doesn't care, but he's done all of this work, and he's home anyway. He doesn't deserve it. He can't earn this feast. He's naked, he's open, he's transparent, which is the beauty of Genesis 1 and 2. If I've ever married anybody, you hear me say things like, this is the beautiful part of marriage. When we are totally seen, come on up, bud. Yeah, man, give me one. Yeah. We are totally seen. There's no pretense. There's no masks. Right? Now, before we go any further, what if we refuse to be totally open and honest with our spouse? What if we refuse to be naked with our spouses? One, they can't be with us. You're not a safe place then. And then they can't be. And two, we never know the freedom of no clothes. And I know that makes everybody uncomfortable. I know it does. I have a story I wish I could tell, but I didn't ask him. But there is a freedom and a beauty of being unencumbered by all the things we get behind. And we never know that if we don't see, right? It's a tragedy. We can't be forgiven if we're not aware of our guilt. We can't have a slate wiped clean as long as we deny that it's filthy. He's in there. He's in there in all of his imperfections, with all of his faults before him, and he's not only tolerated. You know, we all know I hate that word. He's not only tolerated, he's not only allowed to come in the back door and take a plate and leave, right? He's loved. And when I first wrote it, I was going to say anyway. I was going to say he's loved anyway. He's loved in spite of. But that's not quite true either. The Father doesn't even see them anymore. They're as far as the east is from the west. Jesus has covered him so fully that it's not an anyway situation. It's not an in spite of situation. He just sees his son. Not a filthy son, but a holy, pure, clean some. Have that. It's the best meal of his life, right? That's what number 1 is. That's where we're beginning, with a helmet and a feast. And by the way, before we go, the answer to the question who enjoyed it the most is actually not the Son. It's the Father, who's been waiting by the door for him to come home for so long so that he can throw his arms around him. He's literally dying to forgive him. And then he does and celebrates like crazy when he finally can. That's why the prodigal son is so powerful. Not because of either of the sons. Right? What the sons did, there's nothing at all interesting about what the sons do. How many acted like a jerk to our parents? My boys better raise their hand right away. How many have acted like jerks to our parents? How many people have wanted to treat people like they're fools, like they don't matter, like they wanted to make them small? Right? How many times have we, and how many times have we done this? Because that's just not fair. Right? So what? What they did is, it's unremarkable. They're just me and you. What's remarkable is the amazing grace of the Father. What we know, and this is when we know how the Father is. And when we know that, what else is there to do but come home? What else? So, number 1. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. What we do here